Hello, poker players. Today we have an exciting hand review featuring Rampage and hands accumulating in a $1 million bluff by Rampage. That's right, $1 million. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments what hands you would like to see me review.
Needle you, Wesley.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work, right?
Never. Doesn't work?
Yeah, never. Fish doesn't know.
Yeah. Rampage here.
Never two, never work.
Ace-7 of clubs.
I think I've
Hand's
seen
just
two.
gonna call with queen-queen.
I mean, I watch a lot of
Rampage opens the action, hands decides to call, and Pav completes from the straddle. Right off the bat, I think hands makes a big mistake by not 3-betting. Pocket queens strongly prefers to get heads up in a low stack to pot ratio pot, which can only be accomplished by re-raising. Calling here makes it extremely easy to get outdrawn by an ace or a king since it entices Pav to join the pot. Lastly, if all players fold, we win the pot uncontested, which is always a good outcome. Let's move on to the flop.
By 180k, that's killed.
I was like screaming at
In that game, you 5-bet 60k.
And how about
you 3-bet 50k, 60k.
Top set here for hands, who just flat called and he checks. And Pav here, open-ended
Wesley, very juicy player.
with king 8.
Yeah.
Hands super underupped. And Rampage is gonna check raise here.
Anytime you ask, what did you drink last night? I drank a bottle of scotch. It was 7K.
A glass.
Cool. Okay.
We'll call.
Drinking Coronas, and we feel like bosses. We're like, yeah.
Everyone's cheering. We can afford Corona.
Pav's out of there.
Rampage checks. This is a reasonable play given his weak hand, being out of position against two players with uncapped ranges, and the action-packed board given that players tend to continue pre-flop with cards between the ace and the 8 and will be hard-pressed to find the fold button with an attractive piece of the board. Think hands like pairs plus draw such as Jack-9. When it checks to hands, I think it's important he value bets for the same reason we want to be careful bluffing this board, since players are going to call loosely in terms of their relative hand strength and we can get more value. Additionally, there's an element of denial given that villain holding an ace or 8 gut shot are notably drawing alive, and getting those hands to fold is not a bad outcome. However, as played, he chooses to call. Pav stabs and Rampage raises. I think Rampage's raise is questionable. The same reasons that make continuation betting unattractive apply here as well, except that hands may have more of a capped range. Hands makes the call with top set, though 3-betting could also be an option. Would you 3-bet in this spot? Let me know in the comments, and let's see the turn.
Pot. And a club comes off here on the turn. And Rampage picks up the nut flush draw.
You should come to Vegas and play with us. It's very a lot of action. 175.
And here comes the overbet here. 175, and hands is just so underrepped here.
What do you do? Yeah, I moved to Australia.
And there's a call.
On the turn, Rampage picks up a nut flush draw, a good hand for an overbet bluff. He can get better hands to fold like Queen 9, and when he makes the flush, he can value bet aggressively on the river. As hands, I like calling compared to raising. There are lots of straights, Ace King, King 9, and 9-8 that he wants to avoid piling money in against, and by calling he keeps Rampage's bluffs in their range. If you like the hand breakdown so far, liking my videos and subscribing would help keep this channel growing and motivate me to release more content for y'all. Let's see the river.
The river here is a brick. Hands all in! All in from Rampage!
I like this bluff by Rampage since he's doing it against a very tight player based on how I've seen hands play. Hands has made such incredible folds before that I strongly suspect he is overfolding considerably facing big aggression like this. As a result, I don't really care much about Rampage's blockers since these only have a slight effect on the density of hands' calling and folding range. The ultimate goal here is to bluff in spots where we expect the villain to fold more. Additionally, Rampage's story makes a lot of sense as Ace King is staring hands in the face. Now let's think about Hans' decision. Before I dive into the analysis, feel free to pause this video and ask yourself, what would you do in this situation? Call or fold? First, we should always start with pot odds. Hans needs to win about 35% of the time or more facing a slightly over pot all-in bet. It's important to remind ourselves of this since we don't need to win every time or even half of the time to call here, just a little bit over 1 out of every 3 times. Secondly, do we beat any of Rampage's value bets? It's possible. I think Rampage could value bet a set of jacks or tens, although it might be unlikely. This makes calling much better, assuming Rampage has a significant enough bluffing range. Thirdly, what's Rampage's value range? It's probably mostly Ace-King and King-9 suited, the nut and second nut straight. However, note that Rampage elected to check flop instead of continuation betting, which I think skews his range more towards bluffs than these straights since the value combos probably would have c-bet more frequently. However, if we think about Rampage's bluffing range, it actually is probably pretty narrow. This might feel unintuitive because it looks like so many flush and straight draws miss. But a very small proportion of his range can be air. For example, open-ended straight draws are fairly scarce. Rampage arguably wouldn't raise pre-flop with hands like King-8 offsuit, King-4 suited, 9-6 suited, and 9-7 offsuit. Lastly, although Rampage's pre-flop range is dense with mediocre pairs like Ace-10, I wouldn't expect a lot of players to bluff pairs since they look like made hands. So, should Hans call or fold? I think it's close, but I would fold personally, expecting to only win about 30% of the time. I can't fault a call though, since we can beat worse sets, which can give us the necessary equity to call. Let's see what Hans decides to do.
In the middle,
Such a gentleman.
super unorthodox.
Yeah, he must hate me.
Blind versus blind. Hans just called pre-flop. And he's gonna fold, and Rampage gets it through. Oh my God! Unbelievable.
If you made it this far, you might be interested in personal coaching. You can check out criticalpoker.com for more details or contact me directly at info@criticalpoker.com or DM me at NNW on Discord. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep honing your poker skills.